I once had a guest call down to the concierge at 3 a.m. demanding a live goldfish. Not just any fish, but one that matched the specific shade of orange in her silk pajamas. She wanted the fish to keep her company while she meditated, but only if its scales were vibrationally aligned with her mood. I had to pay a local pet store owner a massive fee to open his shop in the middle of the night just to find a fish that was orange enough for her. A high-profile guest stayed in our penthouse and demanded that we remove every single piece of furniture with sharp corners because he was worried about his auric field being punctured. We had to move heavy mahogany desks and marble tables out of the room and replace them with custom-ordered rounded ottomans and circular beanbags. He also insisted that the staff only speak to him in whispers because loud noises shattered his peace. We had a regular billionaire who refused to let anyone enter his suite unless they were wearing full sterile hazmat suits. He claimed he was deathly allergic to civilian dander from anyone who didn't live in a 5-star environment. He also demanded we vacuum the carpet in a perfect alternating chessboard pattern. If a single blade of carpet fibre was leaning the wrong way, he would make the housekeeping team redo the entire 3,000 square foot suite. A very wealthy woman checked in with her 3 poodles and demanded a bespoke tasting menu for them. She didn't want dog food, she wanted hand-seared Wagyu beef, organic asparagus tips, and bottled volcanic water served in crystal bowls. The most bizarre part was that the dogs had to be fed by a server wearing a tuxedo and white gloves, while classical Mozart played in the background as she claimed rhythm aids their digestion. An eccentric tech mogul stayed with us and demanded that his room be kept at exactly 58 degrees Fahrenheit at all times. This was in the middle of a heat wave in Dubai. When the industrial AC system struggled to keep it that low, he demanded we bring in 2 tons of dry ice and place it in decorative tubs around the bed. He slept in a heavy Arctic parka and complained that the ice wasn't steaming aesthetically enough for his morning photos. A famous actress stayed at our hotel and requested that all the light bulbs in her room be replaced with specific rose-tinted bulbs that she provided. She claimed that standard hotel lighting made her look conceptually aged and refused to look in a mirror until the room was glowing pink. She also had us tape black construction paper over every single LED light on the appliances, including the tiny red light on the smoke detector, because unauthorized photons ruined her sleep. One guest demanded that we drain the entire hotel pool and refill it with imported mineral water because he heard the chlorine was a government conspiracy to sap his vitality. When we told him that was impossible, he offered to pay for the water and the labour upfront in cash. He ended up settling for us, filling his oversized bathtub with 85 large bottles of Evian, which took the housekeeping staff nearly 4 hours to pour by hand. A businessman requested a silent room service delivery, where the waiter had to enter the room using a spare key, set the table, and leave without making a single sound or being seen. If the waiter accidentally clinked a spoon, or if the guest caught a glimpse of them, the guest would refuse to pay for the meal. We had to train a specific server to move like a ninja just to deliver a club sandwich and a side of fries to this guy every night. We had a guest who was an extreme germaphobe and demanded that the entire suite be scrubbed with industrial-grade vinegar instead of standard cleaning chemicals. The smell was absolutely overpowering and made the hallway eyes water, but she loved it. She also insisted that the TV remote be wrapped in 3 layers of plastic wrap and that the toilet seat be replaced with a brand new one out of the box every single morning of her 14-day stay. An international socialite stayed in our royal suite and demanded that the hotel florist find midnight blue roses for her bouquet. When we explained that blue roses don't naturally exist in that shade, she told us to make it happen or find a new career. Our poor florist spent the entire night using special floral dye and an airbrush to hand colour 50 white roses so they looked like they grew in the dark. The guest didn't even notice the effort. A guest once demanded that the hotel hire a professional bed warmer to lay in his bed for exactly 30 minutes before he arrived, so the sheets would be human temperature but not machine heated. He explicitly forbade the use of electric blankets, claiming they electrified his dreams. We actually had to find a staff member with a high body temperature to lie perfectly still on the bed until his limo pulled into the driveway. One eccentric traveller insisted that his room be located on a floor that added up to a lucky prime number. When we gave him a room on the 7th floor, he checked the room number and realised it was 712. Because 7 plus 1 plus low were 10, he had a total meltdown in the lobby, claiming the numerological vibrations would cause his business deal to fail. We had to move a long-term guest just to get him into room 711 because 9 was a heavenly digit for him. A guest demanded that we source a specific brand of artisanal butter that was only sold in a tiny village in the French Alps. He wanted it for his morning toast the next day. Since we are in New York, we had to explain the logistics were impossible. He didn't care and offered to pay for a private jet courier to fly the butter over overnight. He spent nearly $15,000 just to have 3 small pats of butter for breakfast, which he then barely even touched. We had a guest who travelled with a collection of antique clocks, over 40 of them. He demanded that a member of the maintenance staff come to his room every hour on the hour to ensure that all the clocks were synchronized to the millisecond. He claimed that if one clock was off, it created a temporal rift in his concentration. The poor maintenance guy spent his entire shift just standing in that room with a digital stopwatch, staring at pendulums. A bridezilla staying in our bridal suite demanded that we repaint the accent wall of the living area because it was 3 shades too aggressive and would clash with her bridesmaids' dresses in the getting ready photos. When we told her we couldn't paint the room on 2 hours' notice, she threatened to sue the hotel for ruining her legacy. We ended up having to hang massive rolls of silk fabric over the wall to hide the colour from her sight. A famous rock star stayed with us and demanded that his bathtub be filled with chocolate milk. Specifically, it had to be lukewarm and frothy. He claimed the lactic acid and cocoa were the only things that kept his skin stage ready. The kitchen staff had to mix gallons of milk and cocoa powder in large stock pots and carry them up to the 12th floor because the elevator was temporarily out of service. He spent 10 minutes in the tub and left. An author requested that all the windows in his suite be professionally boarded up with plywood because the distraction of the horizon prevented him from writing his masterpiece. He also demanded that we remove the clock, the telephone, and the minibar. He wanted to live in total darkness with only a single desk lamp. We had to send security up every few hours just to make sure he was still breathing because he wouldn't answer the door. A guest once demanded that the hotel provide a human alarm clock. Instead of a phone call or a buzzer, he wanted a staff member to stand outside his door and play the flute gently until he woke up. He insisted that the melody must be uplifting but not demanding. Our night auditor, who happened to play the flute in high school, had to stand in the hallway at 6 a.m. playing Jethro Tull covers until the guest poked his head out and nodded. We had a guest who refused to walk on the hotel's marble floors because she believed the stone stole her energy. She demanded that we lay down a path of plush red rugs from the elevator all the way to her room door and then from her bed to the bathroom. We didn't have enough rugs in stock, so we had to strip them from the empty conference rooms and tape them down. She checked out 2 hours later because the red was the wrong hue. A billionaire demanded that we find a way to stop the birds from chirping outside his window because he wanted to sleep in until noon. He suggested we hire bird wranglers or use low-frequency sonic weapons to clear the trees. Obviously, we couldn't do that, so we had to move him to an internal room with no windows. He then complained that the lack of windows made him feel like he was in a golden prison and demanded a partial refund. One guest requested that we organise his suitcase of 500 mismatched socks by colour, fabric and vibe. He claimed he was a sensory seeker and couldn't start his day unless his socks were curated. 2 housekeeping interns spent 4 hours on the floor of his room, pairing up socks and debating whether a dark navy sock had a corporate or nautical vibe. He tipped them each $100 and then threw the socks back into a pile. A high-ranking diplomat demanded that we replace all the towels in his room with brand new ones that had never been laundered. He claimed that laundry detergent poisoned his pores. When we explained that new towels are often covered in factory chemicals and are less absorbent, he didn't care. He wanted the tags still on them. We had to go to a local luxury department store and buy out their entire stock of white Turkish towels just to satisfy him. A guest demanded that we hire a professional cat whisperer because her Himalayan cat seemed judgmental of the room's decor. She was convinced the cat hated the floral wallpaper and wanted an expert to translate the cat's meows so we could rectify the environment. We actually found a pet psychic who sat in the room for an hour, nodding at the cat, while the guest paid the hotel a 20% consultation coordination fee. An eccentric artist stayed in our penthouse and demanded that we fill the bidet with expensive champagne. He wasn't drinking it. He said he wanted to bathe his paintbrushes in the bubbles of success to inspire his next project. We had to deliver 3 bottles of Cristal every morning, which he would promptly pour into the bidet and then sit there dipping his brushes into the fizzy wine while staring intensely at a blank canvas on the floor. A guest requested that the hotel provide a scent-neutral staff member to help him get dressed. He claimed he had a super nose and could smell if a waiter had eaten onions 3 days ago or if a maid used a specific brand of shampoo. We had to find a bellman who agreed to shower with unscented soap and wear a vacuum-sealed uniform that had been washed in plain water. The guest sniffed the air around the bellman for a full minute before allowing him to stay. We had a guest who demanded that we source hand-peeled blueberries for her smoothie. She claimed the skin of the blueberry contained excessive tannins that made her grumpy. The kitchen staff spent an agonizing hour with tweezers and paring knives, peeling a tiny bowl of blueberries. When the smoothie was finally served, she took one sip, said it tasted too industrial, and sent the whole thing back, demanding a glass of tap water instead. A wealthy guest demanded that we fly in a specific brand of pillow from a hotel in Tokyo because he missed the density of Japanese bedding. He refused to sleep on our 800-thread count Egyptian cotton pillows, calling them marshmallows for the weak. We spent $600 on international shipping for 2 pillows that arrived 3 days later. By the time they got there, he had checked out and moved to a different city, leaving the pillows behind. A guest once demanded that we provide a sand-filled room because he missed the beach. He literally wanted us to dump several inches of sand on the hardwood floors of his suite so he could feel the texture between his toes while he watched TV. When we told him about the potential damage and cleaning fees, he offered a $5,000 cleaning deposit in cash. We declined, and he spent the rest of his stay wearing flippers in the lobby to protest the lack of coastal atmosphere. One guest insisted that we turn off the entire hotel's Wi-Fi at 10 p.m. because he believed the radio waves were scrambling his pineal gland while he slept. When we explained that hundreds of other guests were using the internet for work, he suggested we give everyone a tinfoil hat kit instead. He ended up wrapping his own entire bed, headboard, mattress and all, in heavy-duty aluminum foil, which took the maids 3 hours to peel off after he left. A celebrity demanded that the minibar be emptied and refilled entirely with room temperature green gummy bears, only the green ones. She claimed the red ones were aggressive and the yellow ones were cowardly. A junior concierge spent his entire afternoon sorting through 10-pound bags of Haribo, picking out the green bears with a pair of sterile tongs. When the guest arrived, she didn't eat a single one. She just liked the monochromatic aesthetic of the jars. A guest requested that we hire a local choir to sing him to sleep from the hallway. He wanted a 4-part harmony of traditional folk songs, but he didn't want to see the singers. He just wanted the disembodied sound of angels to drift under his door. We couldn't find a choir on such short notice, so we had to set up a high-end surround sound system in the hallway and hide it behind some potted plants to simulate the effect he wanted.